Welcome back, my lords and ladies, to the Cast Beyond the Wall. We're your guides to all things Westerosi, and we're here to bring you a review, analysis, and fan v fan debate on each episode of HBO's hit show, Game of Thrones. And winter is back with a vengeance. Dragons are back with a super hot vengeance in this week's episode, and so is the Cast Beyond the Wall podcast. It's great to be back. I'm your host, Caleb Masters, and after last night's dragon attack, I had to drink more than a few liters of Milk of the Poppy to make sure I rested easy. Wow. Talk about an adrenaline rush. Holy smokes. Well, I'm joined, as always, by my co-host in the desertous lands of, they're not quite Dornish, but desertous lands of Arizona, sir.
Yeah, don't you lay that Dornish evil on me. Austin here, and while it was only for a minute, there was just enough Greyjoy screen time to keep my yo-ho-hos going, so I was pretty happy with this week.
There was some yo-ho-hos. I could hear it. As soon as they looked over, they said, that's not our boat. I had just Austin singing yo-ho, yo-ho, all the way from Arizona. I could hear it in my soul. And I'm also joined by my other co-host in the Starkish lands of Kentucky, sir.
Daniel Stoll. And I must confess, guys, I lied a few episodes ago. If you guys remember, a couple episodes ago, I said that the episode was Missandei and I was Grey Worm, and episode 2 really got me excited. Well, what I didn't know is that I wasn't talking about that episode. I was talking about this episode. I mean, you guys made a joke that I wasn't a man yet, yada, yada, yada. Well, this episode made me a man. I'm telling you right now. This episode was awesome. It got me super excited.
Stahl has found another love.
Yeah, definitely.
There you go. And they are dragons. And I do want to remind you, listeners, that in this episode, we'll be giving you our initial review, recapping each scene of this week's episode, Season 7, Episode 4, The Spoils of War, and, of course, giving you an update on our Fantasy League teams. I do want to remind you can track us on our social media channels, including Twitter at cast_beyond_GOT, and on Facebook at facebook.com/castbeyondthewall. Last week, we opened up our revolving fourth chair guest host, and I'm so happy to welcome back Benjamin of House Friend. He is a longtime friend, and actually you could argue the greatest friend of the Cast Beyond the Wall. This is his fourth, at low minimum of fourth appearance, maybe arguably fifth appearance on the podcast in the history of the Cast Beyond the Wall. Ben Friend, from the windy, and King's Landing-esque city of Chicago, welcome back to the Cast Beyond the Wall.
Thank you very much. I was thinking earlier about what the definitive comparison between Chicago and any part of the Game of Thrones world would be, and I wasn't entirely sure. I wanted to say Winterfell, but it's like 80 degrees and I'm sunburnt right now, so it just doesn't seem to be quite as apropos. Also, I just wanted to say two things. Number one, it's great to be back on the cast. And number two, Daniel, I totally support your lifestyle. I hope that you and the dragons are very happy together.
We are. It can get dangerous sometimes, but we enjoy it.
It's beautiful. Love who you love, man.
This next thing we know, Stoll's going to have little dragon babies. I hope Rachel's all into that. So,
hey, better than regular babies, am I right?
Oh,
that's going to be a conversation later.
On that note, let's talk about listener feedback, guys. So, last week, we left the show off by opening a poll asking you that if you had the opportunity to spoil yourself by reading the episode 4 scripts, would you do it? And we put this poll on the Twitter, and we tweeted about it. And the results were quite shocking. In fact, they have shaken my fundamental faith in human beings who consume pop culture. So, results are 46% said that, yes, they would spoil themselves on the next episode. So, almost half, not quite, but almost half of you said that, yes, we would spoil it. We're not going to wait a few extra days to see the awesome dragons kill everybody. We're going to read about it, and it won't be nearly as epic or full of spectacle, but we're going to read about it so we can know the plot points. And then 15% of you said that you weren't sure. I don't know how you're not sure. You either are going to spoil yourself or you don't, but I was naive enough to say, to leave, because I hate living in a world of absolutes. I'm not a Sith. I want you to have more than two options.
It was an option because because maybe they thought the question was confusing. Didn't understand.
Austin, it was a pretty straightforward question. If you could spoil yourself by reading the script of Season 7, Episode 4, would you? How is that complicated? I don't understand. But 15% said that they were not sure. So, guys, Game of Thrones, you win or you die. You don't get to be unsure. But but nonetheless, I left that option open. And then 39% of you were truth believers. You're changing the world. You're being a Stark, sticking up for the truth and your honor, and said that you would not spoil yourself. So, shocking results. And hey, we can talk about this, but I also want to say, if you were part of that 46% that said yes, you would in fact read the script for the next episode and spoil yourself, please hit us up on Twitter at @cast_beyond_GOT, or on Facebook at facebook.com/castbeyondthewall to let us know why you would spoil us.
Those 46% have an excellent opportunity this week. The new episode's already out. You can go download it through illegal means right now. It is, however, really terrible quality with watermarks, and it's just not good. I haven't seen it, but I've read about it, so I don't suggest it. But if you really want to, it's there.
I would be curious to know, of this 46%, how many actually of the listeners, how many of you did go and spoil the next episode for yourself? How many of you watched this before it premiered on Sunday, or how many of you read the script? Like, if you're willing to do it, that's one thing, but did you actually do it?
I think that's a great point, Ben. Didn't you not hypothetically do it? Did you actually go and do it? And it was made pretty easily available online. Just click a couple links and you're right there.
Can you imagine your first experience with this episode was just reading it and not being able to see it? Like that, the fact that it was this episode too is just beyond me. Like, I don't understand how that would have been, just ruined it for me.
The world and the internet is dark and full of spoilers, so I'm all about avoiding those things. But hey, there are other people who like to consume their pop culture in a different way, and while my initial reaction is to say, no, you're crazy, why would you do that? I want to hear, listen, and tell us, did you do it, and why did you do it, or did you just think about it? I would love to hear about you on those social media means.
You guys can do whatever you want, just know that I will judge you for it.
We also had another question from our listener, Mandy, from Seattle, and she asks, how and when will the comment Davos made about Jon dying for his men come up again? And she says, I hope it does. So I think she's referring to the scene where Davos is like laying out all of Jon's great accomplishments, and he's like, and he died for it. And Jon's like, dude, shut up, stop, don't say that line. I think she's asking, when is that going to come back up, if it comes back up?
The next time we'll hear about this is on their wedding night. When Jon takes off his shirt, he's got all these scars.
You want to know how I got these scars?
I've seen Pompeii. I know what shirtless Kit Harington looks like, and let me tell you, it's not half bad. It's not half bad. Okay, Ben, a quick question for you. What do you think about that particular comment?
I would imagine that it would come up probably in much the same context as it did the first time around. Davos was talking about all of the things that Jon had done and had accomplished, and the sacrifices he'd made, and he said, that he took an arrow to the heart or a dagger to the heart for this. And it seems like, and maybe it will change a little bit after this episode, but it seems like Jon is unfortunately going to be put in the position of defending himself or having the people around him defend him, even more, especially since, as we'll get into, even if he's forging alliances with Daenerys right now, there are certain sacrifices he's not willing to make to do it. So maybe it'll come up in much the same context.
I think Austin's right, but it's not going to be their wedding night. I mean, they're at war. The White Walkers coming. It's going to happen way before any wedding ever comes into the picture.
Are you implying premarital sex stall? Is that what you're looking forward to?
No, he's talking about postmarital sex with the dragons.
I was going to say, would you have these characters live in sin? It's just
what a man does with his
way.
is his own business.
All right, Mandy, I hope that answers your question. I tend to think it's going to show up probably in the season finale. I think they're going to they're going to table that until it's a short season, especially. I think we're going to table that. So I think Ben's dead on, though. It'll come up in a very stressful moment where Jon's having to defend himself or justify his actions for what he's done, and he'll be like, "And I died for my people." One of those types of moments, I think, is dead on. All right, so we have a few more listener questions that I will kind of be sprinkled throughout the episode. So if you sent us a question when we opened up the social media channels earlier on Monday, stay tuned because you have a very good chance that we'll be having your question answered later. But for now, gentlemen, it's time for us to head into our review and recap of Season 7, Episode 4, The Spoils of War.
My only venture at this moment is re-establishing control over this continent and every person on it.
All my allies are gone. I'm losing.
You can count on the Iron Bank as soon as the gold arrives.
Enough with the clever plans.
So this is the shortest episode of the season. They released the runtime. So for whatever reason, knee-jerk reaction is going into this, this is going to be kind of like a filler episode, right? It's short. They're just trying to like spin the wheels, kind of put some stuff in place. Holy shit. Way wrong on that one, guys. Way wrong on that. I mean, could not have been more wrong on that short runtime. I want to get your take on it first. Daniel, what did you think of this week's episode?
I absolutely loved it. My immediate reaction is that it's the best episode of the season so far, and probably going to be the best episode of the season. I mean, we still do have 3 episodes, but that was my gut reaction, and I'm still kind of riding that emotional high a little bit. But I feel like looking back, this could probably be a top 5 episode. I mean, even before the last 10 15 minutes, I was already loving most of what was going on in this episode, and then that happened just to this episode for me is why I love Game of Thrones. I mean, it had just everything that I really enjoy. It had emotion, excitement, intensity. There was even some terrifying moments, and I just loved every second of this episode.
Oh, very good. So very positive. Special guest, Ben Friend, what did you think of this week's episode?
To go off of what Daniel was saying and to go off of what you were saying as well, I would say not only when I saw that this was a shortened runtime did I expect that this would be more of kind of a table setting episode, but I would say for the first 10 or 15 minutes I assumed that I was in for a table setting episode just based on what was happening. Not that it was slow or that I didn't like what was going on. I love this show. I love watching them set the table, but that has kind of been what this season has been so far, is taking characters that we've never seen interact and really setting like the game board for what is going to be, the final confrontations leading us out of this season and into the last one. And so I obviously enjoy that, but I did not expect the last 20-25 minutes of this episode to completely blew me away and just blew all of my expectations out of the water. And obviously we'll talk at length about that. But yeah, this is particularly in the last half. This is the best episode of the season for sure. And I think once we look back on the series as a whole, if not a top 5, it will be a top 10 episode for sure.
Definitely. Austin, what do you think?
Those are some bold statements by both Ben and Daniel. It was a really great episode. All killer, no filler. It was fantastic. The episode delivered on some points that I think we'd criticized the show on in previous weeks, where the interactions between the characters, or we were having these interactions between characters we hadn't gotten to see speak to each other before, were more meaningful this week. They dug into deeper issues. We got to see an actual bonding between characters. And then the spectacle at the end of the episode was truly probably the biggest spectacle we've seen in the series to date. Top 5, I don't put it in there. There's some sacred episodes in the top 5. That's a really hard place to put it. Top 10 or 15, sure. Yeah, definitely the best of the season. When we've had some pretty good episodes this season. Not all were amazing, but this one I don't think had very many low points.
Awesome. And I'm just going to concur with everything that's said. I think I'm still, honestly, I'm a little more optimistic than Austin. Even I'm a little higher on this. I'm more in the realm of Ben, but not quite at Stoll. Not quite at Stoll. And I say this because I need some more time to distance myself from the episode. But I will say, I concur. All of the table setting was grade A table setting. I was really into everything that was going. I love the Baelish Bran stuff, like to kick the episode off. I love the Arya Stark reunion with Sansa. That was a wonderful moment. Like scene after scene after scene. And the Jon Daenerys stuff, while I think it's kind of a strange circumstance, I think it was a really, really, really well done scene that, again, is just really reinforcing where these two characters stand in opposition to each other, and in opposition to each other. And then we get this moment I was just not expecting in this episode, which I would argue is one of the best pieces of spectacle in the history of the show, a show that has given us outstanding, mind-blowing spectacle time after time. I think the reason this, and I had a lot of people I was talking to, is this better than Battle of the Bastards, which I honestly don't think is the best piece of spectacle on the show. It's a great episode, but this takes me back. The reason I like this one so much, though, the spectacle in particular, is it takes me back to the reasons I love Blackwater, which is we're deeply invested in characters on both sides of this battle. Like, and especially now after 5 more seasons, we are super invested. These are A-listers. These aren't your B-listers who are coming. No, these are Daenerys and Jaime, 2 of your, like, everyone kind of loves these people or loves to hate them, and like they mean a lot to us whether we like them or not. So to see them come together in opposition in a battle like this is just spectacular, and I don't think the stakes have ever been this high before. So overall, I would say this is definitely, again, I would echo Ben. We'll see about top 5, very possible, but definitely at least got to be a top 10 for sure. All right. Well, with that said, let's go ahead and kick things off by doing our recap by jumping right into the scene that picks up right after we left last week, where we're outside of High Garden, we reunite with Jaime, and Bronn, who had nothing to do last week, he was looking pretty, finally has something to do, and wouldn't you know it, he's dropping one-liners right off the bat. The Queen of Thorns give you one last prick in the balls. Am I right? Ba-ba! Instantly, Caleb gets 5 points on his fantasy team. Bronn is one of my favorite small. I know he's a supporting character, but Jaime really, really needs that foil to really strengthen his arc and his character a lot more, and I think Bronn did just that. I loved this exchange.
I'll save my confessions for the High Septon.
There is no more High Septon.
No, there isn't, is there?
There is still the question of my prize.
That's a lot of money I just gave you.
It's not a castle. How about that one? It's available.
You don't want High Garden.
I beg to differ.
We're at war. Daenerys Targaryen could come and take it back the day after you move in. Besides, think of the upkeep. The more you own, the more it weighs you down.
Oh, is that why you're so fucking glum, eh? All your new riches weighing you down?
They're not mine. This all belongs to the Iron Bank. See? We pay our debts.
Right. Just not to me.
Bronn of the Blackwater, formerly of whatever nameless shit heap you're from, with a saddlebag full of gold, complaining about not getting paid. When we win this war, all the castles in the 7 kingdoms will be yours to choose from, with no one left to take them away from you.
Yes, I'm sure Queen Cersei's reign will be quiet and peaceable.
Stranger things have happened.
It was a really good scene. I was really glad to see it. I like to see Bronn unsettled, because when Bronn is unsettled, he says far more hilarious things, speaks his mind a lot more. And to your point, that's something Jaime needs to hear. He needs to hear someone that will challenge him. Because Jaime on his own, without people to challenge him and make him consider his, what he's doing, is a really boring, flat character.
Like you said, Bronn, obviously hilarious. Just like you said, one of my favorite, supporting characters as well. But I do like that he, kind of calls out Cersei and doubts her ability to rule. Again, planting some of those seeds in Jaime's mind as Elena did last week. So hopefully those seeds will grow.
Jumping off of Austin's point about Jaime, I don't find Jaime to be a boring character or uncompelling, but it's a good point about him being the most dynamic when he has people challenging him, and that is what has always what I have always liked about his interactions with other characters is it seems like he's so willing, I think, to be challenged, or rather his facade is so thin that pretty much anybody can break through, because left to his own devices, he's loyal to his sister, and even that's kind of shaky. So yeah, to have, a great, fan favorite character like Bronn continuing to give him shit, I've always liked the interactions between those two. Bronn had a really good episode. This seemed like it seemed like this was an episode where the showrunners realized that Bronn was a fan favorite character and had not been given kind of a moment of glory. And so they really gave him a lot to do in this episode, which I think is awesome. I think that's something that you can do with, long form storytelling, is you get to give little characters, big moments. But this was a good scene, and I've always liked Bronn. So, and I'm not just saying that to bolster Caleb's chances in the fantasy league.
He needs it, though. Really needs it.
Next week, Austin, I've got confidence.
Real quick on the point of Jaime's character, I don't feel like Jaime is, I feel like there's a lot to Jaime. I do feel like the show hasn't given him a lot to do over the last couple seasons. I remember back to season 3 that he had a lot of stuff to do. I believe that was the season he had his hand cut off, and I don't feel like the show has really given him stuff to really work with as much as maybe they have in the past. So that could be another reason that he does seem maybe a little weaker, but I do think there's a lot more to Jaime than meets the eye.
Well, I'll say this about Jaime too. So I was talking to Austin about this before we hopped on the recording. So my theory is anytime Jaime's with Cersei, he's boring because like Ben says, he's not challenged. He's just, I am undying devoted to Cersei, and it's shown really badly this season because he's just standing there eyeing everyone as she's like walking all over him and letting him get shit on by Euron, and that's just not fun. And we know, because we know we've seen him be better than that on numerous occasions. So when we see him relegated to that position of that submissive position, it's not fun because we don't feel like, I mean, it's me personally, I don't feel like that's who he really is. I feel like it's just a strange thing, which again, I mean, and I'm not, if we really, really want to get into the weeds, I just don't appreciate the direction that the show has taken his character versus the way the books were doing it. He's gotten some good stuff, and I don't want to be like that. I absolutely hate the book snob comparison thing, but there was a point where they had an option to stay on track and do something different, and they went and doing something different, and I'm not sure that the doing different has really been great for me, because keep in mind, he did also get a really, really great moment last season where he was facing off against the Blackfish to take River Run, and he used his brains to do it. Great moment, great scene. Had an amazing monologue with Edmure Tully, and we saw him, and in season 5, while I will argue that obviously Dorne was a shit show, just absolutely terrible storyline, I think his character was fine enough, and I don't think that's Nikolai Coster-Waldau's fault. I don't think it was even flat that season. It just was, he was not given very much to do. But going all the way back to even season 4, he had a lot of great moments with Tyrion. So I think what we're seeing is just definitely, there's ups and downs. But I will say, anytime it's just him and Cersei, boring.
We've seen this with a couple other characters too. I think Sansa comes to mind in particular. A character where her storyline kind of dragged along, and we saw moments where it could turn around and things could really happen for her, and then they just reverted back to the same old crap. That's happened with Jaime, and I think this episode might have signaled his chance, which we'll get to later.
So, moving along with that scene, we see that the Tarleys are moving all of the money and the food to Queen's Landing. So, this is how Cersei plans to pay off the Iron Bank. She's going to take all the gold from Highgarden and then give it all to the Iron Bank to repay their debts. Such a repayment that even the Iron Banker was like, man, we're really going to miss those interest payments you guys are making. So, clearly, far and away, paying off debts. And it's kind of a nice establishing scene. Now, before I've got a reader question here, but before we get there, I wanted to see if you guys had anything to add to the scene about Cersei repaying the Iron Bank at all. Austin, you're the Iron Banksman, so why don't you take it away? Any thoughts?
Well, as a actual banker, I was very glad to see the bank come out on top in this scenario. I love the banking humor. It was great. I'm going to talk to my coworkers about it this week, and they're going to love it. But in all seriousness, we got to see even more so, and I don't think this character from the Iron Bank's like that compelling necessarily, but the concept of the Iron Bank really deciding what happens in Westeros is the most compelling part. So to see them, really side with Cersei because, one, she paid off her debt, and two, she wants more debt, which doesn't really make a lot of sense, but that's the direction they're going.
she's got to boost that credit rating, Austin. You got to have some debt so you can boost the credit rating.
I mean, that's fine to get more debt, but then why pay it all off in one lump sum? That doesn't make any sense at all. But that's aside the point. I'm really glad to see them back involved and heavily involved in the storyline. I hope they continue to be involved going forward.
All right, Ben, any thoughts on Iron Bank?
I'm just looking forward to the inevitable spinoff that just follows that Iron Bank guy going and seizing farms, like
the Repo Man or something like that. He's a collection.
Do we know this guy's name? Can we call it like What About Paul or something like that?
No, it's Tycho something or another.
Tycho.
I think it's Paul. I think it's Paul, the banker man. It doesn't sound like the banker man that comes and raps on the door and, takes Papa's farm away from you. So
I can just see like some old like documentary style too, like some old farmer, like some old Stark farmer sitting up north, and this repo guy just shows up, and then we cut to the interview of the farmer talking about, I just can't believe he showed up, and I'm like, I got White Walkers.
Yeah, only to realize they've all been murdered by White Walkers or dragons. Well, now the property's useless.
Here's a fun Easter egg, and we're going to chase this rabbit hole because it's fun to chase fan rabbit holes, because why not? Cersei mentioned something about Qyburn kind of talking to the Golden Army, and she's trying to win the Golden Army over to her cause so she can get more armies. Now, do you guys know who the Golden Company is, Austin or Ben? Are you guys familiar at all?
Never heard of it.
No.
You wouldn't have, because it hasn't been mentioned on the show yet. And even though we're in season 7 and we assumed all of the book Ritter knowledge was gone forever, no, here's a little Easter egg. Now, there's this group called the Golden Company. We actually had a listener actually chime in to ask us about it. So I got a question from Billy H. from Seattle. Wow, a lot of Seattle people today. Do you think we'll see the Golden Army, or whatever they're called, from the Iron Bank this season? Well, Billy, I think that's a great point. Daniel, you've also read the books. Maybe you can tell me a little bit about the Golden Company.
What I can remember, it's been a while since I read the books, but based on what I remember, they're basically a group of swell swords, but they're really known for never breaking a contract. They're one of the most expensive groups of swell swords that you can buy, and they always perform. They're like the top notch, and they're super expensive. But the thing with them is they never break a contract. Now, I don't know how much of the book stuff we want to get into, but recently in the books, they break a contract and go with Stannis, I believe.
They do break a contract because we find out that some of them the Golden Company is actually backing someone else that's not anyone on the show. So eventually we get there. They were initially the guys is that they say they're backing Stannis until Stannis is Stannis the Manus is no more based on the show, but they actually end up going with someone else. I guess at this point we can leave it a little ambiguous, because they are in the 5th book, A Dance for Dragons. They are a major faction. Like, they end up being really important, and they've not.
One of our main characters spends a lot of time with them.
Yes. Yeah. And it's and then they end up coming over to Westeros and doing some crazy stuff that we're not expecting.
I would say, I think it's safe to say at this point, though, they're not going to side with Cersei because she ain't got no gold anymore.
Oh, that's a good point. She's not but the fact that she mentioned them, I think, now it could be one of two things. It could just be a clever little Easter egg for book readers like me and Daniel to obsess over for no reason, or it could signal that we are going to see even more sellswords from this other company come over. Now, maybe they aren't going to be main players, but why not get more sellswords from Essos? And maybe that even brings Dario back into the fold. Who knows? I don't know. So some fun little reader trivia for the listeners out there. I do think by the end of the season, we're going to learn something more about them to some degree. I don't think they would mention that for no reason at all. But I don't know. We'll see. Let's move on to my next favorite scene of the episode before we get to the big battle. We get more Baelish. Look at all the Baelish screen time. Remember the last season when I was all like, guys, where's Baelish? Why is he not in this show at all? Well, this season he's in every episode, and it's the best season of Game of Thrones there's been.
And doing next to nothing with all that screen time, but he's there.
Hey, he's not doing nothing. He is making the most ambiguously creepy faces that he has made so far in the whole series. All right,
He's fingering me visually every single episode.
I don't know what it's like. I don't know what you're looking at, but I feel like I need to burn it. Like if it's on my body, like I don't want it to be near me anymore.
I mean, guys, I like this character, but I've admitted for a long time he's creepy. And like every interaction, I'm like, oh, why are you doing this? This is just so creepy. Like this scene for Bran, for instance. He's like, hey, look, here's this dagger that someone tried to kill you with. I wanted to give it to you as a gift. Like, what? Whoa, dude.
What he didn't know is Bran is the only person in the world who is creepier than Littlefinger at this point.
Yeah.
Great points. So in this scene, we have... He's presenting Bran with this knife, and this scene serves a couple of purposes. One, in a very coded way, it reminds us that Baelish reminds us where this knife come from, because we actually haven't seen this knife in the flesh, so to speak, since season 1, episode 3 or 4, I believe. Whenever Baelish presents it to Ned and Catelyn Stark and says, "Hey, look, I know whose dagger that is. That's Tyrion Lannister's dagger," which then sent the Starks to fight the Lannisters, which started the War of the Five Kings, which sent the entire realm into craziness, and thus we have Game of Thrones.
Do you know who this belonged to?
No. That very question was what started the War of the Five Kings. In a way, that dagger made you what you are today. Forced from your home, driven out to the wilds beyond the wall. I imagine you've seen things most men wouldn't believe. To go through all of that and make your way home again only to find such chaos in the world. I can only imagine.
Chaos is a ladder.
It was amazing. It was the best. It was probably my favorite scene of the entire episode, honestly.
Oh, the look on his face, too. Talk about creepy faces. Baelish just has like a dumbfounded look. We don't see on him ever. He's that dumbfounded look where he's like, oh, shit.
Bran has become like the creepy goth kid I aspired to be when I was 15. Like he really, Bran has never been my favorite character, but I like new creepy Bran. Like I like new creepy Bran a lot.
I've always liked Bran, and I thought he was going to make a great king to rule on the Iron Throne. I don't think that anymore, guys. I don't.
You don't want the creepy goth kid ruling from the Iron Throne?
No, I think a king that knows literally everything that has happened and will happen is not a good king.
No, I don't think Bran will be a good king. I think he's got a higher calling now. So we'll just roll with that. Now, a couple things I want to ask you guys about this scene. We can talk, and we'll be able to talk more about Bran here in a minute too. But okay, this puts Baelish on edge. And FYI, we've already talked about this, but all season long, it's been very clear that I think he hasn't interacted with Arya yet, but he has interacted with Sansa, he's interacted with Jon, he's interacted with Bran, and it's very clear that this man is not in his natural habitat, and as much as he wants to be able to play these people, I think he's figuring out pretty quickly that he's not going to be able to play these people like he's not used to playing people. Firstly, I think this puts him on edge a little more than when we're used to seeing him in. One. Two, do you think that Baelish might have been now, there's a caveat for book readers, but let's just, in the context of the show, do you think that Baelish could have been the one that hired the assassin in the first place? I mean, this is going all the way back to the second episode.
Yeah, I've always kind of thought that he was probably the one who did it. And beyond that, I feel like this scene puts a target on Bran's back again. Baelish hires the assassin, finds out that Bran basically knows everything, and could pretty much ruin everything for Baelish. I don't think there's much stopping him from just doing the whole thing again.
No, yeah, I completely agree. I think that if there's the big takeaway of this exchange, and some later exchanges with Arya, but I think that the big takeaway from this scene is that Baelish maybe is realizing that he is in over his head, and that if he was the one that ordered the assassination, way back in season 1, it's not going to be as easy for him to do it this go round.
Right, because he's obviously the sore thumb right now. Like, who else in Winterfell would do something like that, right? I mean, he's the guy no one trusts. Daniel, what do you?
Yeah, I think Austin Ben definitely nailed it. I think that Littlefinger is the guy all the way back in season 1 who said knowledge is power, and Bran just kind of hinted at Littlefinger that he has a lot of knowledge about things, and so Littlefinger's definitely going to see him as someone who's very, very dangerous. So I think they're right. I think, not sure if it was the wisest decision of Bran's to kind of like let on that he knows a lot of things to Littlefinger, but maybe he knows something that's keeping him safe. I don't know, but I don't know. I definitely think they're on the right path there.
Aside from that, this scene I think signaled like an official exit for an actress in Mira, who I think has done a fantastic job throughout the series. I doubt that we see her again. It was nice to see her get like a decent send off for being a minor character.
Austin, I hate to say it, I think she's going to be back at some point.
Do you?
At some point,
Yeah,
we'll see.
I hope so. I like her.
Maybe. This could work either way. She could never come back, and I think it'd be okay. I really do. But at the same time, it would be weird. I mean, she's a critical character, and I think that obviously her house is still servicing the North, so they might show back up in a battle against the White Walkers. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe like in the grand finale or something like that. I don't know. But that's a great point. Now let's go ahead and move on to the next bit in the North, which is Arya returning to Winterfell, another homecoming. And this was great. This was a really great way to showcase the homecoming, because she returns and she asks for Maester Luwin and Roderick, who have been long dead. I mean, since season 2, I think they both died in the same season. Yeah, when Winterfell got burned to the ground. So kind of a nice callback for us as viewers to remember, oh man, that was feels like a lifetime ago. And so she's kind of heckled by these two really dumbass guards who are just sitting there. And it's, really incompetent guards. Of course, then it also takes us right into the reunion scene with her in the crypt. So we can kind of talk about both of those at the same time, I think, which was, of course, a heartwarming reunion. Ben, what did you make of Arya's reunion?
You were talking about how it feels like a lifetime ago since we've seen Arya in Winterfell, first of all, but these two characters together. And I don't think I realized really how long it had been until I actually saw them standing side by side. And there's an amazing quality to the fact that you see the two actresses and you see how much they have grown up, that they were so young, they were babies when this series started, and we've seen them grow and seen their characters go through so much, and then you see them standing face to face, and you see how much Arya has kind of has hardened and has kind of grown her edge, and you see how sort of damaged but also regal Sansa is now. And when Arya says Lady Stark, it suits you, it's true. It rings incredibly true, because we've seen these two characters go two completely different ways, and then to see them come back together and kind of sift through everything that's happened to them, I just think it's phenomenal. I think, again, it's what you get as the biggest benefit of long form storytelling, is to take characters that start off so innocent, put them through a ringer, and then bring them back together and see how they interact. And to see all of the Stark kids together after so long it's emotional, even if, but actually maybe because they're not at all who they used to be.
Most definitely. Daniel, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Ben's right. There's definitely this theme that's going on with the Stark reunions. None of them are the same person that they were before. They're all drastically different characters now. And in some ways it's kind of sad to watch, because you realize, sometimes in your head you have this idea of when they meet up, it's going to be this great hug and loving embrace, and you don't really get that with any of them, really. I mean, Sansa and Jon maybe even had that a little bit, but not really. And in a way, it's sad, because they've gone through so much stuff, they can't go back to having that innocence. All of that is gone now, and there's even these dark overtones through all the stuff that they've gone through, and especially in this scene, I think you can feel it a lot with Arya and Sansa. They didn't like each other really that much beforehand, and in some ways they recognize that they love each other now, but in some ways it almost feels like they're forcing a little bit this reunion that is supposed to be happy, but they both know they can't fully be happy because of everything that's happened. I don't know. I felt like that a little bit as well. So.
Yeah, I actually completely agree with your sentiment. It's heartwarming because we know they love each other, but they don't actually know each other. They're actually strangers, and they know that about each other. And the things they immediately go to are, man, I wish you hadn't have run away, or something like that. They go all the way back to those events that unfolded at the end of season 1 where they got separated in King's Landing. And that's because they really didn't really like each other that much before then. So it's like, it's nice because they're family, but they really don't have much in common. And it's like, well, it's good to see you. It's heartwarming to see them together, but I also feel like there is a little bit. I agree with the sentiment that it's like, well, we've got to stick together because we're family, but not because we actually know we're like each other. And the thing is, like, and even the moment when Arya says, "Well, I've got my list," and Sansa just kind of cracks up. Oh yeah, your list. Oh, you're not joking. Oh, okay. It's just it's like it's very uncomfortable. It's both heartwarming until it becomes uncomfortable. Like, the longer the scene went on, the more uncomfortable I got with it.
My thoughts on the scene probably come to a head really in the next scene. So we got to see Arya and Sansa kind of embrace and meet each other again, and it really didn't, as Saul said, it didn't really have the payoff I was hoping for, because everyone kind of thought Arya was dead. And when you finally see her again, it's like, oh, hey, hi. And it wasn't as exciting as I had hoped. And when we see in the next scene, actually, with Bran and Arya and Sansa all by the weirwood tree together, you start to really understand how damaged each one of these characters are. You start to see, Sansa actually understands that Arya was serious about her list, that she fully intends on murdering a bunch of people, and that she's been doing it. And Arya sees Bran, and she's not really as shocked about it as Sansa was. And the interesting part to me was, I think Sansa always viewed herself as like this damaged figure, and she is. But that she had suffered so much, and to really like meet Jon Snow, who'd been murdered, and meet Arya, who's been murdering people, and meet Bran, who's basically like a potato in a wheelchair at this point. She's realizing, like, hey, maybe I'm not as screwed up as I thought I was. Maybe I'm the normal one.
Yeah, I think that Sansa, as you were saying, is absolutely the most suited to be in a position of authority, or to be making any kind of significant, decisions, because Arya, she is driven entirely by bloodlust at this point. She loves what she's doing, and what she's doing is fighting and killing people, and it's good to see her happy, but she's never going to be the Lady of Winterfell, and Bran is absolutely not going to be. There was the scene between him and Baelish when he says, "I'm not Lord Stark." He's not the person that he used to be. He has no interest in that sort of thing. So I totally agree. Sansa is absolutely the most well-adjusted. She has come out, I think, the most adult in terms of just maturity and competency. And I think that she has become the most well-adjusted, but in that way, I don't know, maybe that means that she had a more dramatic shift in character, or a shift in character every bit as dramatic as the other two, because she was such a petulant little child for the first couple of seasons. There was a time that I couldn't stand Sansa, and I would try to make myself patient with her, okay, look, she's a teenager, she doesn't know what she's doing, she's not evil, she's just 14, and she's whiny, and she likes shiny things, and okay. But yeah, and she has become so well adjusted. It doesn't take much to see why anybody would look to her as a leader, ignoring the fact that all Baelish wants is to use her for, his own purposes. She has proven herself to be, extremely competent and extremely trustworthy in some of the scenes in previous episodes, which we won't go down because we've got so much to talk about here. But I have found myself siding with her over Jon in certain matters in the past. I think that in some ways she might be a more natural-born leader than he is. But
Yeah, I actually, I would agree with that. Actually, she notices the detail. He sees the forest. She sees the trees in a lot of ways. In that way, they're very complementary, but they just can't quite get on the same page. And there have been a number of times where I've actually agreed with her position as well. I think Austin, you really hit the nail on the head. Though this is a scene designed to showcase how these people were not the same people they were before, and also how they're never going to quite be the happy family we wanted them to be. We've been wanting a Stark reunion since season 1. Well, we pretty much, other than Jon, they're all the living Starks are there, and it's bittersweet, right? They're together, but they're different people, and they're not really happy. And the only note that I think Bran says is that someone very wealthy wanted him dead. So that short list, again, we can go into the Baelish conspiracy theories later, but kind of signaling, yeah, Baelish is probably, of the likely people left on the board, it was probably Baelish. I guess it could be Cersei, theoretically, maybe. And she would still make sense, but the whole thing would seem kind of weird at this point. So, but he gives the dagger to Arya. Perhaps he knows the series of events that are about to unfold, and he's giving it to her as a way to get back at Baelish as a really weird, subdued act of vengeance. Or maybe he's just telling the truth and he just really doesn't want it. I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities on the table there.
It's the dagger.
Now we're gonna get
that started the war, and Arya might end it with the dagger. So it'll be interesting.
Ooh,
yeah, that's wow.
I think that's a viable reading. May Baelish find his way out of this one. Anyway, so speaking of Baelish, we're gonna hit on the Brienne Podrick scene in 1 minute. But one note to make, one thing about Baelish that I really, really want to note is there's a scene after we see, Brienne and Podrick see the Starks reunited, but there's a scene where Baelish is overlooking them as they're all together walking out, all talking to each other and stuff. And he has, of course, a very Baelishy look. He's got that kind of vague half smile going on, but he's standing right next to where the ravens go out, and you hear the caw-caw. Now, this could just be a scene to highlight how creepy he is. It's very possible, but I actually read in this scene that he is messaging somebody, or he plans to message somebody. I think he's at a point where he realizes that he's got to get the F out of... He's got to at least give himself an out of Dodge. Like, if things go south, he needs to have a backup plan. So my thought is that maybe he's going to start sending information to Cersei, which I know he doesn't really like Cersei, but at this point, if things go south, what else is he going to do? I don't know. Did you guys catch that detail at all?
Yeah, I don't think it'll be Cersei. I think if he backs away from the Starks because he realizes this is going nowhere for him, it's going to be Dany.
Yeah, that would be my take on it too, though I will admit to having not noticed this detail in the episode. So
yeah, I'm with Ben on that one. I didn't notice that as well.
I watched the episode twice, and I'm just really weird about the details. It could just be he's really creepy in the cawing, but he was right next to that spot where they always send the ravens out. So I was like, huh. Anyway, we'll find out. Maybe it could just amount to nothing. Maybe he's just really creepy. He is really creepy, but maybe he's creepier. But that'll take us to the scene with Brienne and Podrick. They are back, and we get to see Arya challenge Brienne to a duel.
It's time!
Pretty cool scene. She's got skills that kill. And then she got the really smug one-liner. Where did she learn all these cool moves from? No one. I don't really know. What did you guys think of the scene? I don't have much to add other than that it was really cool.
Massey Williams and Gwendolyn Christie definitely felt like they were enjoying the heck out of that scene as well. So it was just very, very fun to watch. It was just very enjoyable.
I think the most notable thing about that scene is Littlefinger now knows that Arya has the dagger.
Yes, and he also knows that she could kill him instantly if she wanted to.
Yeah, I think he understands now that Bran has all the knowledge and Arya has the ability and Sansa can lead. So they're a really terrifying trio. And Jon can inspire. So, they're formidable. And I think he knows that now.
Well, yeah, you know what? I had been most interested to talk to you guys about what the look from Littlefinger towards Arya and also over towards Sansa, really what was going through his head. And it didn't occur to me that more than anything, he was just afraid at seeing what this girl was capable of now. I wasn't sure because you never know with Littlefinger. Part of me wondered if maybe he was looking at her and thinking, well, I wonder if there's any way that, I could place all my bets on her and maybe she needs to be the one that I need to be grooming, but I don't think that she would be controllable in any way. So yeah, otherwise I don't have anything really to add to the scene. I just thought that it was really cool to watch these characters fight. And to interact. I loved the bit where Brienne was being pretty much overpowered and she just kicked Arya down. I liked the idea that, this was supposed to just be training and sparring, and that she actually felt threatened enough that she had this, literal knee-jerk reaction and was just like, you have got to get away from me. She felt legitimately threatened and felt, I think, like she was a worthy adversary.
And that's really the thing. Cool. Like, I don't know if it was threatened as much as it was like, finally, I'm fighting someone that's not Pod, someone who challenges me and tries to make me better.
It's nice to see Brienne do anything this season because she hasn't done anything this season. So it was nice to reestablish that she's still there, and Pod's still there, and they still have a role to play. Well, I think that brings us to we're going to take a little break as Austin is going to tell us a little bit more about this week's Fantasy League updates. We are back with another week of Game of Thrones Fantasy League, where we have 8 teams, which include us 3 and some of our friends and regular listeners. Austin, Luke, Carr, are you ready to give us those updates?
That I am. Listeners, I'm here with your weekly fantasy Game of Thrones update. Yeah, so you get points. There's a total of 5 categories. You have violence.
Any man dies with a clean sword, I'll rape his fucking corpse!
Sex and nudity.
The gods made this, and it delights me.
Wits and schemes.
Chaos isn't a pit. Chaos is a ladder.
Status and power.
Power is power.
And eating and drinking.
I understand that if any more words come pouring out your cunt mouth, I'm gonna have to eat every fucking chicken in this room.
There's lots of things throughout these categories, like killing a random character, killing a named character, killing a dragon. Different levels of getting naked gets you points. Witty one-liners. So for this week's update, there was some last-minute excitement that happened, and I'm not really that excited about it personally. But, yeah, I bet you are, because it was shenanigans. That's what it was. In the number 1 spot, we have A Team Has No Name, who earned 60 points this week, but retroactively from episode 1 got an extra 50 point, which we'll go into a bit later. But he has a total of 445 points to snag the number 1 spot. I am in second place with We Do Not Sow. I scored 120 points this week, all thanks to Danny, for a total of 395 points. And way down in 6th place, the Dum Dum Starkskillers, Mr. Caleb Masters' team, scored 70 points this week, which more than doubled his total.
That's right.
For 135
All from one guy.
All from Bronn, who was great.
All from Bronn. But the guy faced down a dragon, and he, didn't blink. Cool stuff. Anyway, I'm all about those points, Austin. All yours.
So our MVP this week was Miss Daenerys Targaryen, who did get credit for the dragon kills because she was riding on it, and also strangely got credit for a city sack, which is weird, but I guess they consider her sacking the army as taking Highgarden, which she most likely did. But the real MVP this week was Valyrian Steel, because Mr. Daniel Stahl got 50 points for Jaime, applied to episode 1 because he has Widow's Wail now, which he seemed to have from the beginning of the season. We never saw this in previous seasons, so 50 points for the Valyrian Steel. Bran got 50 points for receiving the dagger from Littlefinger, and then the dagger getting passed to Arya. Arya got an extra 50 points, so Valyrian Steel in general got 150 points this week. It was big time. Apparently that's the way forward, and I never knew it.
Hand over someone a dagger or a sword, and you get shitloads of points. So what I'm saying is someone needs to give one of my boys one of those.
Yeah, what if the Hound gets Valyrian Steel and then they just pass it to Beric Dondarrion and Thoros of Myr? They just each hand it to each other a bunch of times, just rack up tons of points.
And it'll be like a Pirates of the Caribbean fight: kill, throw sword, kill, throw sword, kill. But bananas make no sense. But I would get all the points, so it's all cool. All right, yeah, Austin. Well, that's I appreciate the updates. I think it was another really great week. Unfortunately, Cersei's Grenades is still sitting in last place. And although we finally did get some movement from the Dragon Glass Union, who has been kind of stalled the entire season so far, so that was pretty cool from some of our lower teams. I'm gonna make a comeback. Bold prediction right now. I will be neck and neck with you gents next week. I am predicting I get some major.
Keep in mind that I have the Night King, and when he kills the Hound, Thoros, and Beric Dondarrion, I'm gonna rack up so many points.
Will he get the points for that? I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, make sure to stay tuned next week when we take a look at the big developments in our Fantasy League update. And, of course, you can follow our Fantasy League by checking out the show notes in the post below or on our RSS feed. Or you can always follow us on Twitter at cast_beyond_GOT or on Facebook at facebook.com/castbeyondthewall. Thank you so much for listening today. I do want to remind you that you can, if you want to keep up with all of our updates from our Fantasy League, as well as our full recaps every single week, you can do this by subscribing to our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, or any podcast application of your choice. Doing so, subscribing and giving us a rating, that'll give us a bump. That'll let other people know about the Cast Beyond the Wall. That'll get us seen by Apple, and it'll raise the likelihood they're gonna feature us. It'll help us out big time. So if you have been listening and you have not subscribed, 1, save yourself some work. Subscribe. 2, if you've been listening and you've really, really enjoyed this show, give us some feedback. Give us a star rating on the directory. That would be a huge, huge help if you've been enjoying our podcast every single week. The least you can do that would help us out, that one thing it could do, we're not asking for any money, but if you could go and give us a review and a rating, that would be a huge help. And you can, of course, do that on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, preferably on iTunes. That's really the big platform. But nonetheless, make your job easier, subscribe, and have these episodes sent straight to your device every single week.
You don't fight with honor.
No, he did.
All right, gents, it's time for us to get back at it by taking a look at Dragonstone. And it looks like Jon's found him some of that dragon glass. Jon finds he connects with Daenerys after Daenerys and Melisandre have had the sex talk about sex with the eunuch. They make their way down to this big cave, and Daenerys and Jon says, "Hey, come check this out."
As soon as this started happening, I had to let steam out of my collar, because last time Jon was in the cave with a woman, we all know what happened.
What he did was pretty cunning. He told her it was these cave paintings were from the Children of the Forest, but little did we know, he wasn't mining anything this whole time. He was just etching a bunch of drawings on the cave walls. That was what was going on the whole time. None of that Children of the Forest bullshit. That wasn't true. Way harder work. Just drawing cave paintings.
They were, and what great paintings they were.
Yeah, such attention to detail.
I mean, the way he gave that one White Walker blue eyes, that was pretty cool, right? He's like, he took the blue crayon and just etched it out. But no, we got to see Jon show that there's these designs that have been etched in stone, in Dragonstone, with the dragon glass that shows, hey, we've been through this before. We've seen the White Walkers come, and we've got to stop them. And basically, it looks like the children of the forest fought with the first men to destroy the White Walkers, or at least that's what the cave paintings tell us, or at least that's how Jon interprets the cave paintings. And Daenerys is like, okay, I'll hear you out a little bit. These White Walkers might be a thing. You know what? And I like you so much, kid, and your passion is just so attractive. I'm thinking about it. If you just bend the knee, I'm all yours. We'll take him out. You just got to bend that knee.
And that's how the last cave scene started. Ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, this is a really, really, really important scene because Daenerys finally gives credence to what Jon's been telling her. Clearly not enough, because she's still most concerned about seizing the throne, but she's finally starting to believe him. And we see in a later scene that because of this, she's starting to trust his opinion on things. It was interesting to see the Children of the Forest brought up again. I started trying to think through, are we going to see them again as a force within this fight. And I don't think it is. I think it's just to give more validity to these drawings as being ancient drawings that have some weight and some importance.
Gotcha. Daniel, what did you make of this cave painting scene?
As a book reader, it was kind of cool. I know a little bit more about the Children of the Forest, a little bit, not much. So that was kind of cool just to see them mentioned. And it gives a lot of history and, like Austin was saying, validity to what Jon is saying. And for him, it's just a tool to get Dany to believe in him and trust him and give him what he needs. I did find it interesting. She is wanting. They're still both. Neither of them are still willing to give in to the others in demands per se. Like, she still wants him to bend the knee, and he still doesn't care about bending the knee. He just wants her to give him aid. So they're both still holding firm on. Neither of them have given in yet at this point.
Gotcha. Ben Friend, what did you make of the cave paintings?
We were talking about the idea, or I guess half joking about the idea of this being, a flirtatious scene between Jon and Dany, but I don't think there's anything accidental about it being sort of flirtatious. If you think about this, and this has been like the dynamic of the romantic and sexual relationships on this show from the beginning, but most of the time those scenes are specifically about power. And so you have Jon, who came here for the sole purpose of trying to convince her that she needs to be on his side. He is trying to seduce her to his cause, and she is playing hard to get and is trying to maintain a power balance. So it is flirtatious, it's a push and pull. So I thought that was, that creates a super interesting dynamic. And I like the chemistry that these two have together. And they're two of the strongest actors on the show. And it's just been such a ridiculous joy the last couple of weeks to watch them get to play off each other. And, I think that it gives interesting context to, the history and sort of Jon having maybe the correct perspective on how to read history, to have him, find these paintings and realize, look, everybody is looking at this game that we're playing against one another, and none of that is going to matter if we don't heed what it was they were trying to tell us here in the first place from way back. And I think what maybe makes Daenerys more likely to take him seriously in this scene is that what he discovered as sort of a template for how their relationship should work, he discovered it, in her homeland, the place that she was, created, that her family called home. To know that was sitting there, underneath her nose, I think that adds some perspective. She's not just hearing the ramblings of a northerner.
Yeah, that's a great point, Ben. I hadn't even really considered that, the fact they were able to find it from her people, that yes, they had fought these battles. So it just, as you said, it wasn't just the Northerners' perspective. This is, no, this is our heritage. We have fought the White Walkers for, thousands of years, it looks like. It's something that we've done before, and it's so important that we unite together. But again, it's really funny, I think, that she calls Jon out for being too prideful to bend the knee, because I think she's just as prideful for saying you have to bend the knee. She says, if you set aside your pride, bend the knee. That's all that matters. If it's not that big of a deal, your people will understand. Clearly, she doesn't know Northerners. And I think it just shows, as much for me, that the big takeaway of this scene is two things. One, that she is just as prideful as any Ned Stark or any Northerner by saying, no, we're going to do this my way. Yeah, sure, I'll fight your battles as long as I'm the queen leading the charge and I'm the one who's ruling over everything. It has to be me. It's still not quite about the greater good, which I think what Jon's kind of fighting for. And two, I'm kind of warming up to the idea that there's some romantic tension here. I really haven't been into this ship. It's been kind of the fan joke for years and years and years, but there's definitely some chemistry going on here, and I think Ben's right. They've got great actors doing their thing. It's a very intentional choice. If you did watch the kind of the talk with Benioff and Weiss after the episode, they say, oh, this is the scene where they start to be attracted to each other. I'm like, oh, We're really going this way. This is real. I mean, especially if we bind to the theory, the R plus L equals J theory, that means that Daenerys is his aunt, and I know incestuous relationships are acceptable in Westeros, but it still seems kind of like a strange choice. But if we are going down this route, I think it's going to lead to some complications down the road that are going to muddy the waters about the solutions we're going to need even later. But overall, very great scene.
I mean, I know we were making jokes about the relationship, or I was in particular. Look, is there an attraction here? Maybe. But what this is more about to me is Jon can't bend the knee. He can't because he loses the North if he does. And they lose a big chunk of their army if he does this. Dany needs to have him do it because she needs that loyalty that she feels like she's not getting from most of her advisors at this point. So the only way forward that I see right now, and it was hinted at in last season when she broke up with Daario, is a political marriage. And I think it probably will happen. I think Dany will end up marrying Jon Snow, despite the weird incestuous stuff that really no one knows about except for a couple people right now. And I think that's what's ultimately going to unite them, allow the North to accept what Jon is doing, and allow Dany to accept or be able to gain Jon's help in the war.
We actually got a great question. Carrie from Arizona actually asked this question, Austin, so I think you probably just answered, but she asked the question, is Daenerys going to marry Jon? Will it turn out that Jon is not a Targaryen, or will they continue the tradition of the Targaryens marrying each other? So I think you kind of answered Carrie's question there, but...
Yeah, I think they marry, and I think it's solely political.
All right. Well, there you have it, Carrie. They will get married in a loveless marriage, like most Westerosi folks. Now, they walk out of the cave. They're all happy-go-lucky. They're friends. We're all good. And then Tyrion and Varys have some bad news. And that bad news is that they lost Highgarden. And you know what? That's when Daenerys she's angry and essentially says, you know what? Tyrion, I don't trust you. Your tactics have got nothing. Your more deliberate tactics have lost my fleets and lost one of my key cities that had all the food and the gold that we needed to win the war. So you know what? Forget our peaceful tactics about not burning the Westeros to the ground to rule it. I'm taking my dragons and my Dothraki. I'm getting out of here. I think I think this is, again, this scene's really great because it showcases more tension between the group. I really, really, really like Jon's line. The people who follow you and believe in you because you made the impossible happen. If you burn castles, you are no different. You are just more of the same of what they have expected to see. I thought that was a really great line. Ben, what did you make of that?
Well, I thought that was a great line too, and I thought that was probably the line that will sort of serve as the thesis statement from this point on about their relationship with each other. That being said, I wonder where you make the differentiation between Daenerys taking the dragons and just going to King's Landing and burning it to the ground, or what she ends up doing with the dragons. I mean, is Jon okay with the fact that she, went and that totaled the Lannister army with?
Yeah, they're not civilians.
I guess that's fair. No, that's a totally fair point. But I guess it's just a question of when that kind of force is permissible and when it isn't.
It was like a full-on drone strike, is what it was.
A funny tweet I saw from someone online. It's like when you're playing Civ 5 with your little brother and you fly in with like fire bombers to bomb his archers is basically the equivalent to what happened. One thing before we get to the fiery death thing, there was a really important moment that I really liked, and that was Theon returning to Jon. I forgot this was a thing, actually. I forgot that Theon did not realize Jon was with Daenerys. So when he showed up, they just kind of looked at each other and I was like, oh shit. This is the first time they've seen each other since, he's heard about them burning his brothers and all that stuff. Intense moment. Austin, a great joy. What did you think?
It was good. I totally had forgotten that this was going to happen too. I didn't even consider this conflict until it actually showed up. I'm a little annoyed with Jon for not realizing, yeah, Theon did a lot of bad things, but he's also made up for it in a lot of ways at this point. And I think that relationship will get a little better as time goes on. And Theon continues to try to make recompense for what he's done.
I will say there was like a split second, and Game of Thrones has this way, and we can definitely talk about this later too, has this way of making you believe that at any moment someone can die. And there was like for a brief second, I was like, holy crap, is Jon about to kill him? And then, you know, like, okay, no, he's not going to be that rash. But there was that moment of doubt in my head for just a second. But I think Austin's right. Like, as Jon himself even mentions, you know, Theon does save Sansa, and he played a very important role in that. So even though there is that emotional reaction from Jon, he realizes that without Theon, Sansa probably would be in a much worse situation as well. So I think Theon has definitely made up for that, and hopefully they can get past some of the terrible things that Theon has done and realize that, you know, Theon has made up for that stuff, and he can still be very important to Jon, and they can work on that relationship.
Yeah, there was a moment where I wasn't sure what Jon or Theon was going to do either. I'm sure they probably just stood and looked at each other for about 10 or 15 seconds. It kind of felt like an eternity, because I think they were both maybe weighing, you know, what their next move should be. And as somebody who also does feel like it's been forever, and it has been forever since we've seen those two characters together, I kind of was running through the scenarios in my head in that moment going like, okay, is there any reason that Jon shouldn't walk over there and just, you know, kill, except for the fact that Jon's not the type to just walk over and kill somebody. But it's like, is there any reason why it wouldn't be justified for him to at least go over and just start, you know, beating his head in? And, you know, I think that what ended up happening was much truer to Jon's character, but also gave Theon the little bit of mercy that he has kind of earned at this point. Jon doesn't know the full extent, actually, of all of the good things that Theon has been able to do. I mean, he hasn't been witness to a lot of it. So he does know what he did for Sansa, and that is, you know, more than enough for him to, you know, to take, you know, to have some mercy on him. But I don't know, Theon is such a different character too since the last time that those two saw each other, you know, and I think that it's what's most interesting about that is, you know, I think maybe Jon also saw that Theon was kind of a broken man, you know, in that fear in his eyes. Which, you know, he'd be right to have that fear in his eyes regardless, but, you know, you could look at him and tell he's not the man that he used to be.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I like, I mean, Theon, the last time Jon saw him, I guess would have been like the second episode, the pilot. It's way, 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 way early on. And the last time we saw Theon was a cocky little prick, you know, and yeah, he's changed quite a bit. Now let's go ahead and take it to the main event, where we're going to talk, we'll kind of hit the high points, because I think there's no way to fully describe this sequence, but to say to watch it. But a couple things before we get into the full sequence. One, Bronn, meet Dickon.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
He's the voice of the audience.
And that's what Bronn would have said, you know? How could he resist?
Yeah, I mean, that's why Bronn's so great. That's exactly what he would do. He would just say something like that. And one-liner's on fire, giving me more points. He says this, and then his death senses start tingling. He's like, wait, you hear that?
I'm not abandoning my army.
You're the commander, not a damn infantryman. Those fuckers are about to swamp us.
So I just want to put this into context. Not only do we see dragons for the first time, we saw Dothraki in actual combat for the first time, something that they've always hyped up. These are the most epic fighters ever. These guys are deadly. So we hear them stampeding. It's like the Lion King, when the rocks start to shake at the beginning of the Lion King. You're like, oh my God, it's a stampede. And then all of a sudden you hear their war cries coming in, and then you're terrified and you realize what's going on. And Jaime's all like, yeah, we'll just hold the line. And Bronn's like, we got to get the hell out of here. We're gonna get swamped by these. He says these funkers are about to swamp us. And of course, Jaime's trying to be the good soldier and say, no, we can hold the line. And then there's that moment where the dragon shows up, and I was certain Bronn was gonna turn around and get the F out. I was like, he's a sellsword. His allegiance is very flimsy. The second he saw the dragon, I was expecting him to book. So when he didn't, that's when all of a sudden, for me personally, my adrenaline shot up. I was like, oh my God, they're going to kill Bronn because he's not running. If he's not running, that means he is dead. And I was a little worried about Jaime too, but I had a little more confidence going into the scene he was going to be okay just because.
Plot armor. We call that plot armor.
Plot armor. Thank you. Yeah, definitely. But I don't think Bronn certainly doesn't have that. I mean, he's a fan favorite and he's fun. But I was like, oh my God, if they were going to kill one character that meant anything to us in this episode, it would totally be Bronn. This whole sequence is very visceral. We see Daenerys riding Drogon.
We can hold them off.
Burn all the food. I might have burned the gold. It was a little unclear if that was the gold or the food. They said the gold was safely in King's Landing, I guess, so it must have just been the food. Soldiers to ash. She incinerates some of them, but the guys who try to defend themselves with their shields, they're turned to ashes. And then the Dothraki just stomp on them, on their ashes, and as their ashes collapse to the ground. It is visceral.
It's exactly what I expected after seeing Harrenhal. The stones just be melted clumps of molten rock, basically. It completely delivered on the fantasy that I've been sold of Dragonfire.
And this sequence also had a way of really kind of putting you in the middle of the horrors of war in a way that I'm not going to say this show has never done, but I think the big key is that instead of it being one character or set of characters that you have followed, for seasons, one of your main characters in combat against somebody a little more minor or who you might be rooting against, you now have two sets of A players fighting each other. And so you are following Jaime and Bronn as they are running around and dealing with the fallout and dodging fire and dodging the Dothraki and everything else. And it's horrifying. It really, it's a big spectacle and it's awesome to see, but it really is horrifying to be in the middle of all of that and to have everything, burning around you. You can almost just feel the heat.
They've teased it before. They talk about how men in their armor, their skin would boil underneath the iron, and we got to see it. And the guys ripping their helmets off and their faces were just scalded off. It was terrifying. And Ben, you brought up exactly why I love this scene. This is two A-list teams going at each other. This takes me back to why one of my favorite battle sequence of the show was before this was the battle at the Blackwater, because we were rooting for people on both sides. We wanted to see the despicable people on both sides bite it, but we also didn't want Tyrion to die. We didn't want Bronn to die, or we didn't want Davos to die on the other side of the battle. And then we were in the same scenario here, except for we're even more invested in all these characters now because it's been 7 seasons. So we have been following these guys all the way through, and they're both, somewhat justified in what they're doing. We understand exactly what they are. So to have those very deeply personal, intimate stakes is enough just to send, again, the adrenaline rush and all the emotions just soaring through the ceiling, and to see the way those people perceive the war as you're talking about, and seeing the loss of life in this side we've invested so much in, I think it carries so much more weight than if we had just watched this one episode as a one-off or something like that along those lines, right? Really, in my opinion, justifies the reason for watching the whole show. Yes, you have these big moments of spectacle, but they mean infinitely more because we have all this history with these characters in the storyline. Austin, you have anything you'd like to add?
I think the scene would have carried a lot more weight for me had there been seemingly more consequence that came out of it. Ultimately, what we saw is no loss of life from major characters as far as we know at this point in time. Maybe, the next episode kind of shows a little bit more of that. My biggest fear that we would lose a dragon in this, I didn't even care about any of the characters. Like, they could have all died for all I know, but if a dragon died, I'd been very upset. But now Dany knows, and everybody knows, that there are weapons out there that have been designed to take down the dragons, and that they're aware of it. Ultimately, a really cool scene. I wasn't a huge fan of the shaky cam. I know you liked it, Caleb, and kind of, I get that it might have shown like how it felt to be within the battle. It was disorienting for me. Not as bad, to your point, that as it was on the ships with the Greyjoy fight scene. But it was not my favorite part of it.
I don't know. Yeah, this was technically impressive. So apparently they had a camera. I was actually just reading on Twitter before I hopped on. They had a camera that moved 70 miles an hour to capture Jaime riding on the horseback. Like, that is insane.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it's a huge technical feat. And I like the scene. So Austin, the reason I am a big fan of the way they so I think the scene you're talking about specifically is once Bronn, he's riding against the Dothraki, and the Dothraki, which, by the way, holy shit, that Dothraki move with the horse was incredible, where they're charging each other and the Dothraki slides down. Yeah, well, he does that. They do that cool scene, but then it's the scene where Bronn's on the ground running away from the Dothraki is the thing I think you're more concerned about, because I liked it because it was one shot, or at least it appeared to be a big tracking shot for about 30 seconds or so. Like, it was all ebb and flow, and it was shaky, definitely shaky, no denial about it. And there was a lot going on in the frame. I'll give you that, but I would argue, at least for my take on it, and the reason I liked it was because it was showing and creating that tension for us of just how bonkers the situation was for Bronn. We felt that in the same way that he did, which I appreciated as well. But I could understand how that could also be very disorienting.
It was weird to me that they, like, one of the big things Dany was concerned about with losing Highgarden is that she lost her gold and her food. And what's one of the first things she does with her dragons is torch all the supplies, just completely gone. Well, so much for all that stuff. Totally gone now.
I definitely love the sequence. As you were mentioning, Caleb, I definitely loved the camera, especially that Bronn shot. I really enjoyed it. I can understand why someone might not like it, but I was definitely on board with how I felt like I was just in it in that moment. But also for me, some of you guys have touched on it already, but for me, that whole time I was just thinking, in one particular moment, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, Bronn's going to die. And then the next moment, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, Jaime's going to die. Oh my gosh, Dany's going to die. Like, I was in it. And I definitely felt like at any moment, any of them could die. So to me, it is kind of miraculous that one of them didn't die. But for me, like, I felt it, the intensity, the emotion. I was, as Ben mentioned earlier, I was terrified as the sequence was going on. I knew it in the back of my head that something bad is going to happen here. And, Caleb mentioned Blackwater. We had Joffrey, who we want to see lose, but, Tyrion is on that side, so we want him to win. And here, I don't have really anyone in particular that I don't like. There's a lot of, like, throwaway characters, but I like Dany, I like Jaime, and I like Bronn a lot, and there's no one that I really like. I want to see them die. So the whole time I'm just completely terrified that one, two, or all of them are going to die or be injured majorly. So I definitely felt that the tension throughout this entire sequence.
Yeah, most definitely. And I thought it was really cool that they added Tyrion kind of watching from the sidelines, kind of being like us. Like, he really was an avatar, so to speak, for us to witness the events, because he's like, oh, this is terrible. I didn't want this. I did not want dragons coming in and incinerating all these people. And then he sees Jaime on the battlefield, and then Jaime makes the charge at Daenerys, and he's like, "Oh my God,
you're fucking idiot!
What are you doing?"
Yeah. And I have been curious about how Tyrion would handle himself once he was actually put in a situation where Daenerys and her troops were going to be fighting against his family. For what it's worth, he doesn't he pretty much renounces the Lannister name. He doesn't have any interest in touting himself as a Lannister. But Jaime has always been decent to him. They have always had the best relationship of anyone in the family. And so you see that there is that conflict going on. You see that Tyrion is conflicted about the fact that, yes, he's, thrown his weight behind Daenerys. But he is troubled by the idea that she's gone and torched everything. And of course he's going to be worried about his brother, even if he's not worried about, the army or the long standing of the Lannister name or something like that. So I thought that was a good little character moment in the middle of all of this chaos. I wanted to bring up one other character moment that I liked a lot because I liked the sort of the symbolism of it. At the beginning of this episode, there was the conversation between Jaime and Bronn where Bronn just kept nagging him to, give me a castle, give me this, give me that. He wanted to be paid. And then in the middle of all of this chaos, he drops his gold and he has the choice to either go for it or keep fighting. And he doesn't go and grab his money. And I think that that's a huge deal for someone like Bronn who's only been in it for the money.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I was shocked when he didn't run because the odds were so stacked, and he knew it. Like, he knew that he was stacked against him, but yet he kept fighting the dragon. And he didn't just stay on that trebuchet for one shot or two shots. He shot 3 trebuchets at that thing before he finally jumped ship when he had to jump ship. It was, I think a really valuable character moment for him. I don't know if it's growth, but I would definitely say a big character moment for him because clearly there's more to him in this scenario. There's some loyalty there somewhere. There's something that's keeping him loyal to whatever cause he's on in that moment. I am of the mind he's going to turn coat. He's going to show up. Tyrion and Daenerys are going to show up, and he's going to turn coat or something like that, like almost immediately. And Tyrion will back him up because they go way back. But I think that's a great point, Ben. I'm really glad you brought that up. And man, take some balls to face down a dragon. It's flying straight at you.
And I had my my doubts and reservations about whether or not this this arrow contraption, I don't know,
Ballista.
Do they have a name for this?
It's a ballista.
A ballista? I had my doubts about whether or not that was actually going to be effective because we had this scene where it was, used on a dragon's skull. And it was effective, but my thinking was, okay, but how is that going to help you when you have a giant moving target that can spit fire at you? And what we saw is that it's actually pretty effective. So I would imagine we probably have not seen the last of that, right?
But we might have seen dragon armor from here on out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I want to close out the conversation by going over a listener question. Rachel from Kentucky asks, will Jaime's possible near-death experience change his view on Cersei? I would hope so, but I also thought that River Run was going to do it, and I really, really thought that her blowing up part of King's Landing with wildfire was going to do it, but it didn't. So I honestly don't know. I don't know what it's going to take anymore. I really don't. I really thought the wildfire was going to be the thing, but...
Yeah, I think that the show has been slowly whittling away at his loyalty towards her as he's seen her be crueler, colder, seen what she's capable of doing. And, you were talking earlier about, story armor and about how you had a certain amount of confidence that Jaime was not going to be killed. And this is a big reason that I think that he's going to be alive and well in the next episode. But... my theory about, and I guess this is a popular one, but my theory about where his arc was heading was that he was going to be the brother that killed Cersei. And I feel like that's kind of his ultimate destiny as a character. And I think that there's no reason whatsoever for this to not push him more towards that direction. I think at some point he's going to realize that he has almost died and has lost, limb and almost life for her and for this cause way too many times. even if she is his true love. I imagine that he'll probably end up back in King's Landing, or are we calling it Queen's Landing now? I like the idea of calling it Queen's Landing from here on out. I think that the breadcrumbs are being sprinkled right now for him to turn.
I don't think he even returns. I think he abandons her altogether. And I think that because he has a Valyrian steel sword, I think Dany essentially turns her back basically on the regular war, just starts ignoring Cersei. I think Jaime goes along with him, and everyone goes fights the White Walkers together. It'll be exciting. It'll be like the Power Rangers.
Will they all go to Krispy Kreme, or...
I certainly hope so. Or I heard about this really great chicken place from the Hound.
Oh yeah, the KFC chicken, the KFC eat every fucking chicken in this room deal. Yeah,
the famous bowl.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. Chicken all the way. Daniel, I don't know. Do you have anything else you'd like to add on this one, Daniel?
In regards to the Jaime and Cersei relationship, I've voiced my opinion on how I agree with Ben that that's where Jaime's arc is headed. I do think that it's not this particular moment. It will be her reaction when he goes back and talks to her about this situation and kind of shows her the magnitude of what they are fighting. Like, these dragons just completely wiped them out. There's nothing they could really do about it. He's going to kind of go back to her and say, like, look, I almost died, blah, blah, blah. And she's going to not really care that much that he almost died. And I think that's the moment where he then leaves Cersei. So it's not his, death moment. It's how she reacts to, him almost dying that's going to send him over
In what world does Jaime get back to her right now? He's floating underwater and everything's dead and on fire. At the very least, he's a prisoner at this point.
I don't know. Everyone's teleported everywhere this season, so maybe Jaime will just, bam, back real quick.
Yeah, poof.
There has been a lot of teleportation lately.
It's the new thing of Westeros, teleportation. I think it's all powered by Jon's boat that can make the Kessel run from Winterfell all the way down to Dragonstone in less than 12 parsecs. I think that's the secret.
Maybe it's Gendry's boat. He's actually just ferrying people around everywhere like a champion with those massive Hulk arms of his.
I think I fall somewhere in the middle. I definitely think Ben's right. I've been harping on it all season. I 100% agree. He's going to be the one that kills Cersei. I don't think he makes it back to King's Landing. But I also don't think that Daenerys just drops her war either, Austin. I think that's that would take a massive leap of faith on her part. I think Jaime is also the most valuable prisoner they could have, and I think he's going to be a prisoner. That's kind of where I see it going. We'll see. Maybe Gendry rescues him from the depths somehow and gets him away from the battle, but I think more or less someone's going to find him. He's going to be a prisoner, and I'm not sure exactly where it goes from there, but eventually he's going to make his way back to King's Landing and he's going to kill Cersei one way or another. All right, ladies and gentlemen, well, that will about wrap our show. Overall, I think, quick rapid-fire last-second thoughts, I think this is a top 10 caliber episode. We'll see when the dust settles, but yes, this was, in fact, an excellent episode of Game of Thrones. Maybe top 5, at least top 10. Quick rapid-fire opinions. Austin, what'd you think of the episode rank-wise?
Great episode. Rank-wise, I think you're underestimating how many of these types of episodes we're going to get going forward.
Daniel?
Yeah, I said it earlier. My gut reaction is to say that I'm probably going to put this up there in the top 5. I think you guys are definitely right. It's definitely top 10. I think it could be questionable for top 5, but yeah, it's up there.
Ben?
Yeah, this was a fantastic episode. I think it was the best of the season so far. I hope to God Austin is right and that it just gets better and better from here. There's nothing I would love more than for next week to blow this one out of the water.
I mean, I will say we have some momentum because I do feel like in a certain way, every episode has gotten better and bigger. And this is the first episode where I was like, wow, just blown away. So it'd be cool if we could keep seeing that momentum going. All right, before we wrap the show, I do want to remind everyone that you can find the Cast Beyond the Wall on our social media channels. That's on Twitter at cast_beyond_GOT, or on Facebook at facebook.com/cast beyond the wall. I'm always posing a lot of questions, opening polls. If you really want to interact with the show, let your voice be heard. Maybe you have a question like some of the other listeners who chimed into this episode. You do that by letting us know through those social media means. Ben Friend, where can people find you online if they enjoy your personality and your insights?
You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/B3NFriend. It's just Ben Friend with a 3 in it. You wouldn't believe how often I have to tell that to like bank tellers and, the Comcast customer service people. But you can find me on Facebook or Twitter, same thing, twitter.com/B3NFriend. Please, add me, talk to me. I'd love to chit chat with any of you guys.
Awesome. And Austin Lucari, where can people find you online if they like tweeting things at you and celebrating in your Greyjoy love?
You can follow me on Twitter at ACLucari. Usually just posting snarky stuff to Caleb.
Yeah, like boasting about his fantasy results after this week's episode prematurely.
Yeah, whatever. The only thing...
Who's bidding what knee now, Austin?
It was shenanigans. There was shenanigans with that Valerian Steel Jamie points nonsense.
All right, and Daniel Stull, where can people find you online?
You can find me at Daniel Stull, numbers 2-3. And yeah, shoot me a tweet. Let me know what you think. I'd love to talk to you.
All right, and of course, you can always also find me on the Twitter, my favorite social media platform, at CMastersTalk. That's letter C, Masters Talk. Right now, tweeting a hell of a lot about Game of Thrones and loving it, but I also tweet about films, give my little Twitter reviews, and also talk about video games from time to time. If you have any interest in any of those things, feel free to give me a follow and tweet at me there. You can also find me on Letterboxd and Instagram at CMasters91. My online portfolio can be found at calebmasters.net. And if you like film analysis, if you like how we break down these episodes and you like analysis on film, I've got just the website for you. Recently just launched thecinematropolis.com. If you were a fan of, say, The Dissolve, one of my favorite film websites that may it rest in peace, you might want to check out the Cinematropolis. We've got a lot of great essays coming out. We have video essays, written essays, a lot of good stuff. We are trying to create a new home for thoughtful conversations on film there. All right, gentlemen, so let's go ahead and wrap the show by prehashing next week's episode, Eastwatch.
I'm not here to murder. Bend the knee and join me. Or refuse and die.
You need to find a way to make her listen.
Whatever stands in our way, we will defeat it.
Bran saw the Night King and his army marching towards Eastwatch. Bad things are coming.
So they're keeping these titles very close to the chest these days because they didn't release this title until after last night's episode aired. So I had no idea. When I was making this outline, I was like, I don't know what this episode's called. I have no idea. And then I Googled it, and they announced Eastwatch. Now, no synopsis yet. They didn't give us any vague synopsis to go off of, but I can tell you right now all I need to know. And it's that I'm going to make a shitload of points next week when we go to Eastwatch. Now, do you guys recall Eastwatch? Any of you guys remember that at all?
I do, because I Googled it.
Oh, good job, Austin. Great on you.
Yeah, research.
I didn't have to Google it. What up?
Oh, we got we've got an old school encyclopedia versus a new age Google searcher.
Eastwatch is the easternmost castle along the wall, right by the water. If you've been paying close attention to the intro scenes, you'll notice that right along there, the water in the ocean's all freezing up. Probably walkable. Maybe enough for an whole army to walk across the ice. So we'll see what happens.
It's also the tower on the wall that is closest to Hardhome, where we last saw the White Walkers, come in and just destroy everything.
Yep, that it is. And in that amount of time, the White Walkers have walked like 20 miles or something, and Jon Snow has gone around the world 400 times.
Again, teleportation. I like how our characters can teleport everywhere, but those White Walkers, man, they're just taking their sweet mosey time to make it down to that wall. Yes, and it's also worth of note, Eastwatch was mentioned. That is where Jon sent Tormund in the first episode. He made him, and I got some bonus points there. So Tormund is there. And also the Hound and the Brotherhood Without Banners have alluded to the fact that they're going there. The Hound, when he looked into the flame in the first episode of the season, talked about the wall, big icy wall right next to the sea. So it's kind of implied that's where they're heading to. So we might get to see some flaming sword action.
I can't wait for the Night King to kill all of your team.
No.
It's going to be great.
No, they will not kill my team. They might kill Dondarrion and Thoros of Myr. They're definitely dead. The Hound is going to live on.
Tormund's gone.
Think of all those points I'm going to get. Now, all those free agents I'll get to recruit. It's going to be great. It'll be a clean slate.
There's no free agents left. You're so screwed.
I'm going to have all the points, though. So I would say, and especially if you watch the clip for the next time, we do get to see Bran like warg into the Ravens or something like that to go look at Beyond the Wall. So I think how do you top the dragons and considering the Lannister army? Well, you give us a White Walker battle with the wildlings. So I think we're in for a real treat next week, and I'm very much looking forward to it. Ben, thanks so much for guest hosting again this year. Me and you go way back. Austin's
back.
the only one, isn't it? Way back. So it's always a pleasure to have you on the podcast, and a real honor to get to talk to you about Game of Thrones still.
Absolutely.
So.
I love doing this, so I'm happy to do it anytime. It's always great to see you and Austin and Daniel, and great time.
Awesome. All right, before we close out the show, I'm just going to leave the listeners with a poll. So, the poll I'm going to open up this week is, if you were to part with one major character from this week's battle, so if one of them was for certain dead, who would you prefer to see go? The three options being Jaime, Daenerys, and Bronn. So, like last week, that poll will be posted about the same time this episode goes live, so make sure to hit us up on those social media channels to participate in the poll. And let us know what you think. I think this is a tough one, so we will be discussing more on next week's episode. So thanks so much to everyone for tuning in to our discussion of Game of Thrones Season 7, Episode 4, The Spoils of War. And I can't wait to return when next week we once again go Beyond the Wall. I forgot to mention that I have found I was dead wrong past episodes. Bran is Professor X. I don't know why I ever had any doubts. He's got a wheelchair. He has omniscient powers. The weirwood tree is Cerebro. How did I miss it?
Yeah. Just gotta put a note in here. You can cut this part, Caleb. It's fine.
It's going in, Austin. It's going in. It's going in.
And here I resisted the temptation to compare him to Dr. Manhattan 10 minutes ago. I was like, I'm going to behave. It's okay.
He has a floppy blue penis under there too somewhere. It's there, I'm sure.
Don't give them any ideas.
It is very cold.
That's a good point, actually. Okay. All I'm saying is you got Daenerys the Storm, you got Professor X, Sansa. I mean, Sansa's already Jean Grey in the movie, so she's Jean Grey. There you go. I don't know how I missed it before.